Hi, Casey.
Hi, Leah.
I'm really glad that you came to talk to me today.
Thank you.
I guess, as you know, my role with Peter Lucas is a lot of the time I'm facilitating personal and professional development sessions for my staff. And there's something going on in Canada right now where I felt like it wasn't something that I could teach, and only something that maybe you could help me show by example. I've been feeling that Canadians have a history of politely sweeping things under the rug and ignoring issues because they're uncomfortable to talk about. And hopefully we foster more healthy conversations in the future. So thank you again for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I want to start with a land acknowledgement, and that, we're in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, but this is Treaty 6 territory. I saw you introduce Saskatoon's Pride Parade this year, and you did a fantastic job co-chairing with Natasha.
Yes.
And I was really impressed by the conversation that you guys had at the beginning, and that's really what kind of prompted this for me. Was during your land acknowledgement, not only did you acknowledge the land, but you also gave opportunity to acknowledge that Natasha and I, as descendants of settlers, along the way we have forgotten or misinterpreted, I believe that was her words, the promises and the responsibilities that had been exchanged with the original caretakers of this land. Why is it important to acknowledge that in business or meetings or even at events?
It was a very touching, very heartfelt experience for me receiving her words, and it was really genuine, and you can tell she put a lot of time and thought and care into it. And when things like that happen, it always helps to foster more meaningful and deeper relationships. The people who are here today, none of us are direct causes of what's going on in the world today. It's something that got passed down.
Yeah.
And being able to recognize that is so important, because then that's where the conflict can dissipate, because it's not a you did this to my family or you did this to Indigenous people, because you didn't. you, Leah, did not. And I think that's where some tension can come about, is if people make it very personal to themselves and their family in regards to relationship dynamics and the history and what played out, then you're going to have the tension, you're going to have the pointing of the fingers and the not so kind words. But that's not what the Truth and Reconciliation is intended to do. And with land acknowledgements, they're an accurate historical way to honor the original first occupants of the land of Turtle Island. And before colonialism, this was Turtle Island, this wasn't Canada. And there was treaties made, and then there's treaties broken. And so a land acknowledgement, especially one that has some thought and effort put into it, you create a nourishing space to be able to foster deeper connections and deeper relationships, and kind of set the ground for more understanding.
So the First Nations people's relationship with Canada is a bit of a sensitive topic right now. There's a lot of hurt and there's a lot of trauma, and it is understandably so, just building up more emotion as more discovered bodies and unmarked graves are found, particularly BC and Saskatchewan, and I'm sure more to come. Is it appropriate for someone to ask someone else about their experience with the residential school system?
I would say no. Looking at the residential school system, my family has gone 4 generations back, and I just went out to Delmas the other weekend, while they're doing the search, I was able to see the book, and there was some names in there, and there was Achinum in there, and there was many relatives in that book. Being an Indigenous woman who has not gone to residential school and growing up with so many family members who have, I don't know all their stories, and I wouldn't ask them. It's a very traumatic experience, especially if you don't know what people's journeys are. You don't know if they've had time to work through everything that's happened, where they're at in their healing. So I think that question could be triggering for a lot of people. It's not a simple question. It's not even an easy, like, you can't even just give one experience and just be like, oh, that, you know what I mean? Like, there's lots of examples. There's some articles going around about being shared from some of my family members who are sharing their grandfather's experience, who is also a relative of mine, and his name's Alphonse Little Poplar. In there, he was able to tell some stories of what happened, and in there, he was also able to say what his experience was like. But when people share it on their own, then that's a different conversation. Then that might be something, that you can look into, or you can talk about.
They may be more receptive to asking questions.
Yeah. Hearing these stories require a tremendous amount of being able to, like, hold space, because I can't even imagine hearing
their truths.
Yeah, their truths. But that's part of the truth and reconciliation. You can't have reconciliation if you don't have truth. And then going back to your land acknowledgement question, land acknowledgements are a little bit of truth. So they're a learning opportunity to be able to learn what some truths are with our Indigenous history in Canada. If you are interested in knowing what the residential experience was like for some Indigenous people, I would suggest seeking out people who have already shared their stories, because they'd be more open to sharing. The very little bit that I've heard through my aunts and uncles is heavy enough as it is, that I couldn't have imagined asking them what else happened.
I know that not everybody's receptive. They like to keep their space closed and hold it for themselves until that they're ready to share. Why did you agree to come and talk to me today?
Today I agreed to come talk to you. It was because it was in your delivery of your ask. When you had asked me to come talk, you had also apologized in regards to a previous conversation about learning anti-racism and anti-oppression and just unlearning biases. And it felt, I think I felt seen in that moment. And I felt like this was a good place to have a conversation. It's something people need to talk about, but not all people are willing to have that conversation. So the fact that you asked me, and the fact that you are interested in learning or hearing more perspectives is a good thing. It shows that you're willing, and if you're willing, then I'm willing. It's reciprocal. Yeah.
Well, I feel like we're both showing a little bravery today by coming to do this. The responsibility for acknowledging the existence and eliminating racism, it's you mentioned earlier that there's a lot of finger pointing, and I don't believe that that responsibility lies solely on our governments or religious organizations to completely walk that path through truth and reconciliation. Starting at this level, what is something that you think, like, just our employers or our dated, like the places that we go every day, what are some things that they could do to, help solve this big problem we have?
That's a big question. I think it's an individual thing. as individuals, we need to unlearn our biases that we have amongst different groups of people. And in doing that work, we uncover more parts about ourselves as we learn about others. And I think when you do the work as an individual, separate from your place of work, then you'll naturally bring it to your workplace. Of course.
What could I do better as a friend or ally who is already woke? You know, there's always more that we can do. What would you like to see your friends doing?
That's a great question. For myself, learning about my history, learning about settler history, learning about my friends' individualities as well. You know, knowing that one of my friends has roots tied to Russia, another one has Norwegian roots, another one has Ukrainian roots. They're all very different. You know, the thing about wanting to diversify and inclusify the world is we all want to stand out, but we all want to fit in. So I think seeing your friends for who they are, seeing your people for who they are, and appreciating their differences and their uniqueness, and vice versa. Like I notice that I do it with my friends in regards to food, because I like food, and it's really easy it's a really easy starting point, right? It's a good place for people to come together.
So we just need to have a big potluck.
Yes.
I like it.
Bring an authentic traditional food. There you go. Yeah.
We're a couple weeks past Canada Day now, but it's, there was a lot of conversation on both sides of the coin about canceling Canada Day. And I guess I'm curious of what your thoughts are on that.
I don't think my thoughts on that are fully formed yet. And I think the relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people is really important to foster. And that's about where I'm at with that question.
I don't have honest.
I don't have a definitive yes or no. I do know that I speak for myself. I think another part of maybe my apprehension in coming today or having this conversation today is just I don't speak for all Indigenous people, and I don't want it to be thought of that I do. Like, you might have this conversation, the same conversation with another Indigenous person, and they might have completely opposite answers from me. Yeah. But for me, as myself, this is where I'm at with everything. Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me now that we're kind of wrapping up our conversation?
Yeah, you had asked earlier, what is it that some friends can do, or what is it that employers can do? So I'm curious, and what you do and what you've done in different, or what you've noticed in different work environments and friend environments, peer environments.
I mean, I've seen in the workplace, from my perspective, I've seen a lot of movements in trying to commit to the different components of the Truth and Reconciliation Act. And so, implementing the best hiring practices for involving Indigenous people, and doing business with First Nations run organizations. And so I see that a lot, especially with where I am right now. We have a focus on that. In previous organizations, it's, we'll do the half-day cultural awareness session, or, I've just in recent years have started taking a personal interest, and maybe it's because I'm feeling more personal responsibility to, not the past, but to my own behaviors and what I'm carrying forward. And so I think that just speaks to more to what your point was, in that maybe as people start to develop themselves personally, they carry that through their organizations. And so right now, I feel like my role is to listen and to carry forward what I hear. And so I'm I'm really glad that you were here today for me to listen to. At Peter Lucas, our core values are respect, trust and integrity, pride, courage, and growth. And I really feel like that by us being here together, I feel like I've experienced that and shown it a little bit, and I hope that that's something that can carry forward too.
Nice.
So
Thank you
so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the people that I've mentioned throughout this interview, they're also really great go-to people for. Oh wow, I'm sorry. Check it out.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. So as I was saying, the some of the people that I've mentioned in our conversation today, they're really valuable resources and knowledge keepers in terms of these kind of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're interested in having more of these, but from different perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
it might be nice to reach out to other Indigenous thought leaders within the community as well.
That's great. That's a great tip. I know I'm seeing a lot of resources coming out, and so they're not hard to find.
Yeah. Especially now. Yeah.
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 Any final thoughts?
No. Thank you I don't have any final thoughts at the moment, but thank you for having this conversation with me. Yeah.
I hope to have more.
That'd be awesome.